Morning, church. My name is Kenny Wallace, and I have the honor of being able to share from the word of the Lord this morning. We have been in a season where we're talking about what it means to be human and how God reveals that to us. And so this passage, I love it because Peter, who oftentimes sticks his foot in his mouth, for once gets it right, and Jesus affirms him. He says, God revealed this to you, Peter. And unfortunately, a couple verses later, he sticks his foot in his mouth again and gets called Satan. But right now, at this point, he is listening to the Lord in a good way. From the beginning of time, God desired for us to be in relationship with him, right? So in the Bible studies we started this summer, we started in Genesis, the very beginning. And God created us groundlings, literally the ones from the earth as a part of creation. But he gave us a blessing that he didn't give the rest of creation. He allowed us to be the bearers of his image. And so, although God is reflected in all of creation, it is the groundlings that bear God's image. And a perfect harmony was established with our place, holding on to the sacred circle that is the Godhead, was beautifully laid out. We were known, and we felt it. God knew us, and we knew God. We understood what it meant to be human. However, that harmony was broken when we let go of that sacred hoop, when we chose to go our own way, and we got lost. Our definition of what humanity is shifted from being found in relationship and in reflection of God to our circumstances and our contexts around us. Our connection to God became ancillary rather than integral. It became a side thing instead of that we could take or leave, instead of something that is the very nature of who we are. But this wasn't true on both sides. It's not true for God. See, he never forgot the harmony and relationship that he established. And in fact, he spent the rest of the Bible reminding these groundlings who literally carried his breath of the intimate connection between us and him. He designed humans, writing the very definition of who and what we are out of himself. And because God is the fullness of who we are, it made sense to him to remind us of this with himself. Enter Jesus. See, God sent his son from heaven into the world, literally becoming a groundling, putting on flesh. But there was something different about this groundling. Let me read Colossians 1, 15, 14, 15, 16. This is what it says about Jesus. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. There was so much there. But in that first line, he is the image of the invisible God. It says that this groundling was different than us because unlike us who are bearers of the image of God, Jesus is the image of God. And because all things were created through him and for him, he best knew how to accurately turn all of that towards his Father in worship. Jesus is the fullness of humanity. He is the most human because he most accurately lives into the image of God as the image of God. Well, but wow, if he's so awesome and he's the fullest human and God himself, then I can't even come close. I have no hope of remembering the way back to harmony with God. But see, there was another reason that God sent his son as a human and not as a bull or as a bird or as a tree. He wasn't just sent here to be the superhuman. We get the reason in Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 and 15. Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who is in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. See, this says that Jesus left heaven and he came to earth so that he could sympathize with our weaknesses. See, remember, we had shifted our definition of who we are from our relationship with God to our circumstances. And Jesus came to redefine our circumstances. He entered into our circumstances and took that into and redeemed it in himself. And he lived what we lived and carried that into the sacred circle of harmony with God. And if that's true, then we can live with full confidence and we can draw near to the throne of grace and receive mercy that he will help us in the time of need. Jesus asked, "Who am I?" And so I want to give a little bit of a picture of who was Jesus. And I've taken this, lest we say Kenny wrote this, I adopted this from the Word Made Flesh curriculum. I'm walking with a group of people towards ordination. I'm seeking an ordination from a community that is alive. And we've been talking about what it means that Jesus is the Word made flesh. And so I want to give a picture of who was Jesus. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, in the Middle East, near Asia. 60% of the world is Asian born. What I want you to do is you're hearing these things. I want you to see if you can find yourself in his story. And what this doesn't mean is that because he was born in Asia, he doesn't care about the rest of the world. That's not what I'm saying with each of these, okay? I want you to hear me. He's painting a picture of principles of what it means to be human. And he's relating to us in ways that most of the world can understand. And he's using it in a particular expression. So Jesus was born in Asia, just like 60% of the world. Jesus was mixed race. Tamar and Rahab, Ruth and Bathsheba, they weren't Jewish. They were not Israelites. Multiracial people are the fastest growing demographic in North America. Who is Jesus? Jesus was poor. Doesn't mean he doesn't love the rich. But he came into the world in flesh to a family that was poor. The offering that his family brought to the temple was the smallest offering permitted. 3.7 million people here in Canada live below the poverty level. And 1.4 million of those are in deep poverty. Who is Jesus? Jesus was born to a teenage mom. Records now, or scientists are saying that Mary was about 13 years old. 13 years old when she had Jesus. Globally, 14% of girls will give birth before they turn 19. Who is Jesus? Jesus was a political refugee. His family fled from Egypt to escape state-sponsored genocide. 50 million people were forced to flee from their homes in the last 10 years. Jesus was an immigrant. He returned to Israel after his impressionable years. Here in Canada, nearly all growth between July of last year and July of this year was not from new babies. It was from immigration. We have welcomed, legally or not, 468,817 immigrants. I'm sure that number's outdated, and I'm one of them. Some people said that Jesus was mentally ill. His family sure thought he was. They said he's out of his mind. 1 in 3 people in Canada, 9.1 million people, will be affected by mental health issues. Who is Jesus? Jesus was urban. It said he traveled throughout the cities of Galilee. By 2050, 68% of the globe will be urban. And today, 80% of the Canadian population live in urban areas. Jesus was an outlaw. He broke Sabbath laws on purpose. He made people mad on purpose, right? 31,773 people are in prison here in Canada. And 28% of those are indigenous, even though they only make up 4.6% of the population. Jesus was despised and rejected. He was viewed as one who was cursed, because cursed is he who hangs on a tree. 61% of homicides here in Canada are race-based. 23% are religious-based, 11% because of sexual orientation, and 5% are directed to ethnic minorities. Who is Jesus? Jesus was an innocent victim. 62% of people here in Canada said that they were victims of harsh parenting. That's everything from getting a spanking to punishments that are inappropriate. 22% of kids have experienced physical abuse, and 21% have experienced physical violence. Who was Jesus? Jesus was murdered. Almost 1/4 of all homicides that are reported and solved are committed against our indigenous brothers and sisters. And who is Jesus? He was resurrected as a wounded healer. He showed his real scars to Thomas. He said, "Put your hands in the hole that's left in my side." 44% of adults here in Canada live with a chronic medical condition. That's almost half. So why would the Son of Man, literally God made flesh, God with us, why would he go through all of this? He did it to remind us that God knows us. God knows you intimately and in ways that connect to you on your happiest days and to the days when you're wrestling in your darkest depths of your soul and feeling things that you wouldn't dare to utter aloud. Who is Jesus? Peter said, "You are the Christ. You are the Messiah. You're the one who will make right our relationship with God because you are the Son of God." God made flesh, lived through our brokenness. He lived through our experiences and circumstances so that as the most true human, we could have a model and a road back to remembering what it means to be truly human. Being in relationship with the one whose image we bear. So let me end with the so what, the implication of Peter's affirmation. Why does this matter? Hebrews 4:16. If this is true, and it is, then let us, with confidence, draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. And for that, in the season of Thanksgiving, we can be truly thankful. Amen?